Welcome to the Alliance with me, your host, Andrew Hayes. Uh, we're about to turn a chapter on this show. Uh, Next week, it's going to be episode number 1. Uh, we've done some episodes, but they haven't been, I don't feel like they've been organized. And so next week, we're going to start number 1 with special guest Bob Murphy. I'm actually going to sit down and record with him over Zoom, of course. Uh, but we're gonna record in about 3 hours from now, and it's a big one. It's supposed to be recorded earlier this week and last week and aired today. Uh, we just we could have made it work, but we decided to put it off. Quality over speed, I guess. Um, but it's gonna be a fun show. I think we're gonna get into the weeds, talk about some very foundational things, um, the first principles really, uh, as they relate to economics, and some things that might not be super intuitive on some level. That's the interesting thing about Austrian economics. I think that most of it is entirely intuitive. That's the beauty of the free market, is that it just makes sense, and you don't have someone in charge, and the burden is on them to figure it out. Not that they could, but we don't have that in the free market. Everybody gets to do what they want to do, um, and they don't have to answer to anybody except for their customers, right? And to that extent, we don't have an actual free market because as a business, you have uh, government oversight and regulators, and certainly other people that you have to answer to besides only your customers. Um, in the free market, it's not the government that's king, or in the olden days, the king that's the king. In the free market, the consumer is king. Um, but anyway, we'll get into that. I want to tell you about it. That's a big deal. Um, I'm started to work on getting bigger name guests, and obviously I don't know how I get bigger than Bob Murphy. Um, I don't know how many books he's written. Uh, quite a few books. I know he wrote the politically incorrect guide to capitalism, or yeah, I think that's it. Um, which is just a great little book. He condensed human action, um, modernized it, updated the language. Uh, I think he broke down some concepts and made them a little bit more relatable. Um, you know, anyway, I'm sure that a lot of this stuff that I'm wanting to talk about now, we'll talk about in the early part of the interview that will air next week. So I'm going to get off of that and switch gears and talk a little bit about. I mean, the the guy made the speech. The guy makes the speech, and you hear it, and you have something to say about it. Man, I'm not picking on the guy, but um, Leon Ferris down there in Stevens County. Say down there, it's to the east, 50 miles. I actually have a lease ground. I have cattle over in Stevens County. It's not far away at all, and but yeah, he's really this idea of the grassroots being a cult, and all that I guess Ferlin Kearns started. Leon Ferris has has taken a hold of that idea, and we'll see if we can't get that clip and link it to this video so y'all can watch it for yourselves and see what you're talking about. I actually saw it. Deborah Campbell, I believe is who it was, posted a clip in the OK2A group, and that's where I first saw it. So credit where it's due. Um, but but in the speech, he's calling us a cult. He says that we don't allow for differing opinions, and I sit here uh, with probably the greatest collection of different opinions within not just the grassroots but the Republican Party, um, and uh, I'm welcome in the grassroots. I don't know how welcome I am in the establishment side. Um, so you know, I I don't get it. I don't understand how the grassroots is supposed to be this thought cult, and they don't allow for differing opinions, and yet we have a wider range of opinions than the establishment side does. That and I posted this in one of the chats. If you're in the Patriot chat, um, if you're not, I don't know how to get you in, but if you are, you might know. Um, yeah, we're pretty open. We've got people that of all things would like to see the licensing of barbershops and hair salons remain in place, remain intact. They want an oversight board, a government oversight board, to license and enforce um, sanitation and just different things, I guess, in that industry. That you can't paint a lady's fingernails without a license. Um, we have those people, and then we have completely. I don't know if I'd use the word radical. Free market absolutist. I think that might be a suitable term. You have a free market absolutist that wants to deregulate and get rid of all licensing laws. The we don't, and again, guys, go back to the founding generation. They didn't have licensure. Um, in some areas, in some things, they had what's it called? Oh, credentialing. Yeah, you'd have some type of credentialing or certification from an industry board. Um, so the what's it called? The AMA, with without the government issuing licenses for doctors, um, somebody would presumably go to medical school. They would complete all their coursework, and they would go out into the world and hang a shingle outside with their name on it. And you're like, well, how do we know this is an actual doctor, not a snake oil salesman? Well, he would be credentialed by other doctors. Other doctors would vouch for this guy and say, yeah, this guy is legit. He knows what he's doing. Um, we refer patients to him. When we can't get to him, or if a patient is not in our area, we'll refer him to him. Um, and that's how it has worked. That's how it would work without regulation. I work in a deregulated industry. There is absolutely no regulation, uh, nobody to answer to when it comes to building barbed wire fence, and yet, aside from the people that go out and build fence themselves on their own land, um, you don't have bad fence builders um, running around out there. They're they're not. Um, I guess you could argue that some are better than others. Um, There's certainly a few that are faster than I am. Um, you know, I won't say the guy's name, but I was talking to another fellow. I said, "Oh yeah, I build just as good a fence as that guy, but he's a better fence builder than me." I said, "Well, if your fence is just as good, how come he's better?" I said, "Well, because he can build it faster. That means he makes more money." So, but that fella runs a 4-man crew, and my deal is just me and one other guy. Sometimes my kids help, uh, but there's no crummy fence builders around. Every once in a while, somebody will throw in, and they kind of get smoked out pretty quick. Nobody's getting damaged um, or anything because of a lack of regulation. It's fine. The market can regulate itself, and you might even you might have even been able to make an argument 40 or 50 years ago, uh, before the internet. But guys, I'm telling you, uh, with the internet, with sites like Yelp, um, man, consumers have the power. Consumers have the power, and we can talk, we can make videos, we can push stuff out there. Um, Man, if you mess up today, uh, some disgruntled customer is going to come in with a phone, and the whole world is going to know about your failure, and it's going to cost you business. So, um, the what I'm trying to get at is that the regulation put in place by the market is so much more strenuous and so much tighter than whatever regulation that the government could come up with. Uh, but anyway, I think I got off onto rabbit hole, I guess. Point is that in our radical right wing cult group, there's the one side that wants barbershops to be regulated, and then there's my side that wants to deregulate everything. So we have a wide range of opinions and ideas. Um, we're Big Tent. It's the establishment that created the grassroots by not being Big Tent, by pushing people like the Ron Paul guys out. All the Ron Paul guys um, showed up in '07. Was it '06, '07? Uh, when Ron Paul was running the first time. And the establishment treated them like crap. Uh, and then they did it again in 2012 when Ron Paul ran again. Uh, and my sweet wife, uh, I don't know what I can say except she's probably smarter than me. She was a Republican, and she was a delegate to. I think it. I forget. I'm not sure if she went to state or not, but she was at district. She was at district. I couldn't go. I had to work. But she went to district, and she told the story. She came back and told how she and the other Ron Paul people were treated. And hey, uh, she is still not ready to come back into the Republican Party. She doesn't buy it. She, I mean, her attitude basically. She said, "Great," because I tell her about the grassroots. I tell her, "Hey, look, these people they're good. You know, they don't agree with us on everything, but they're good people. They mean well. They're open-minded. Uh, they're our friends. They're on our side." She says, "Great, have fun. It's still the Republican Party, and I don't want anything to do with it." So basically, her idea is that it's going to eventually fall apart. Um, she's a little bit more of a pessimist than I am, but that's kind of where she stands. But But I say that the establishment created the division years ago by how they treated the Ron Paul people, and they've continued to drive that wedge, and they're still doing it. Leon Harris has no reason to talk about this stuff, and I know, and I'd be happy to have Art on to talk about it. Art's the vice chair over there. Just the most shady stuff happened at their county convention. I was over there because I went over there to meet a gubernatorial candidate that had showed up. Um, I just met him, gave him my card, invited him on my show, uh, hung around, said hello to a few people, and I was out of there. But uh, what they did is they did their business real, real quick and to the point. Basically, they said, I make a motion. They had somebody make a motion. I motion that we keep everything the same. Somebody seconded it. They voted. The ayes have it. Boom. Motion to adjourn. Second, and they're done. And what they did when they said keep everything the same, that's all precinct chairs, vice chairs, uh, all officers in the county party. They just kept it all the same. And that's what they meant. Keep everything the same. And I'm not a rules guy. There's things I know. There's things I'm an expert on, or at least knowledgeable on. Uh, and then there's things that I'm not. And I'm not a rules guy, but I cannot imagine that what they pulled over there is inside of the rules. I don't know. Um, I don't know. But Harris is driving that wedge deeper, and what's eventually going to happen, folks, is that we're going to continue to grow. We're going to continue to make the better arguments. Uh, our side is going to grow. People on their side are going to get frustrated and quit. They're also going to come over to our side, and you're going to be left with a very small, very bitter faction that just whines, uh, and that's what it's going to turn into. And and I don't have a timeline on this. These sorts of things um, happen. It's a little bit like going broke. It happens a little bit at a time, and then all at once. But you're kind of seeing it. At the last convention, what did we do? We charities charity won big. I think I think Larry won in a much closer race. I don't remember, but I'm telling you, the margins were bigger this year at convention. We're growing. We're on the move. Um, what we need to do is to stay right, stay on message, uh, extend grace and kindness every opportunity we can, but still call out their nonsense. Um, you know, they're the ones that are going to end up looking like a cult when this whole thing is over. Um, that's my idea. That's what I think is going to happen. But uh, it's certainly not a we don't have litmus tests inside the grassroots. No, I don't know of anybody that's been kicked out of any of the grassroots groups. Um, Perhaps my group is the most restrictive. I have one that's the OK GOP platform group, right? And it's informal. It's non-binding. Nothing that we do in our group is going to actually affect the platform, but it's just for discussion and ideas. And to that end, Sandra and I, we kind of decided, she's admin, I'm admin. We kind of decided that, hey, people that are in the group need to be able to converse with other people in the group. So don't block other people in the group. And that's the only thing that we've asked. Um, and I don't know, if you're not big enough to handle all the people in the group, then you know, I don't know. You can leave. That's kind of the upshot of it. Um, and we've even made exceptions to that. But anyway, that's getting too deep in the weeds, I feel like. But speaking of divergent opinions, and I checked the fire.org today. That's, if you don't know, that's the free speech organization. Uh, they've been working for 25 years or more, right about 25 years, and it's a free speech organization. Let me just run this by you guys. They're so hardcore free speech. They will come in and defend students that are upset over what a teacher says, over what a professor says. And the students want to protest that professor and call for her to be fired. So they're going to go out on the South Oval and protest and demand that a professor is fired. And the administration has a problem with it. And so fire comes in and defends their right to protest. And then if the administration actually listens and they fire the professor for what they said, provided it's a public university, right? Uh, if they fire the professor for what they said, the same organization, FIRE, will come in and defend the professor on free speech grounds and get that professor their job back or a settlement or whatever, make it right. Um, and that kind of boggles the mind, uh, the level of commitment that it's absolutely not about politics. It's you talk about usually nonpartisanship in my mind sounds sinister. It's not nonpartisan. It's apolitical. It's it's non-political. It's not nonpartisan. It's just non-political. Uh, the content of the speech does not matter to these people. It doesn't matter what it is you're saying. If if you have something to say, regardless of what it is, you have the right to say it. Um, and that's the standard that fire has. And so what I'm waiting to see is if I'm sure they will, what they will have to say about the seashell gate, I guess we'll call it, Comey and the seashells on the seashore that spell out 8647. And it's so many of my friends on the right, which I'm on the right, but a lot of those folks, these folks, my friends, they're hung up on the fact that Comey is a liar, and he is. He's absolutely a liar. He knows what 86 means. He knows what 47 means. He also didn't find him on the beach. He's the one that made it. He did it. Um, knows what it means. He took a picture. He put it on Twitter. He's a liar. All that being said, to say 8647, uh, I'm wondering how that is actually a crime. I'd have to look up the exact quote. See right here, I got a new phone, so I can look stuff up. The downside is it's not set up yet. Um, but without getting on the internet, I remember a case from the Adams administration, a fellow named Callender, and I think his first name was James. And he made some remarks, something about John Adams, his big fat ass, and a cannon. And I don't remember exactly how that went, but The upshot of it was that Calendar's sentiments were 100% clear that he wanted to see Adams get blown up with a cannon. And the government comes along and they arrest him, they try him, they find him guilty, they stick him in prison. And, I don't know if it was day 1 or day 2, but and it's just such an interesting thing that so much of Trump coming in and pardoning all these people, like there's a huge slew of people that Trump pardoned. But guess what? In 1801, Thomas Jefferson pardoned a whole slew of people too. All these people that had been picked up on the Alien and Sedition Acts and were sitting in jail. And one of them was James Callender, who had been arrested and convicted for saying what he said about the president. And Jefferson pardoned him. So, 8647, if you think that that's a crime, and look, guys, I don't like James Comey. I'm not defending the man. I'm defending the principle of free speech. That if I say it, or you say it, or the guy down the street says it, James Comey is a criminal. But I don't want to see criminals get put in jail for free speech. I want to see criminals get put in jail for their crimes. It's not justice to throw away to lock up a criminal for free speech violations. That's not okay. We want to get them for their crimes. That's justice. If you think 8647 is a crime, was Jefferson wrong for pardoning Callender? I don't think he was, and I think that the sedition law was bad law. I think it was unconstitutional. And I don't remember for sure whether if the sedition law was repealed or if it was ruled unconstitutional. I think it was just repealed. But clearly it was repealed on unconstitutional grounds. That was the idea. Y'all got to remember, before Madison v. Marlborough, I forget. It's something that I'm not saying right, but just know that before 1803, the courts didn't decide the constitutionality of the laws. That was for the states and the people to decide. And everybody looked at it like it was everybody's job to decide if something was constitutional. And you had Jefferson, he would say, this isn't constitutional, I can't do this. That's how he felt about the Louisiana Purchase. You had Monroe, and I can't remember the other fellow's name. They had congressional authorization to buy the city of New Orleans, and that was it. And they ended up buying all of the Louisiana territory. And it's like, well, they overstepped. They overstepped what they were supposed to have done, and Jefferson, for quite a while, and it took him a while before he would let it go, but Jefferson wanted to pass a constitutional amendment post hoc to remedy that, and everybody convinced him, no, don't worry about it, and so he finally let it go. But the point is that it's up to everybody to read the Constitution, to understand it, to know a thing or two about the history and the context. Just really short, I'm going to open up this can of worms, is got into a little bit of argument, and I might have changed my mind on this one. Right. Just the principle, just a constitutional side. whether or not foreigners in the early days had the constitutional right to keep and bear arms, I think that's a separate question. But whether or not they should, uh, the first law prohibiting foreigners from carrying guns, from owning guns, was not passed in 1809 or 1799. It was passed in 1909, a solid 100 years after the Constitution. Why such a great wait? If there was a problem with it, how come the framers and that first generation, why didn't they do anything about it? And on the flip side, I don't think that means that the Second Amendment necessarily applies. It just means that it's not absolutely crazy that somebody here who is not a citizen uh, shouldn't be able to have a revolver to defend themselves from getting mugged. Um, you know, uh, this is where I see some what are typically seen as left-wing ideas when it comes to gun control. Uh, might be kind of reasonable when it comes to foreigners. You've got it's that old idea that they would do, where you'd have to go and do an interview with the sheriff, and the sheriff would have to would have to sign off on you and basically vouch and say, yeah, you're not a terrorist or in a gang or anything, and yeah, you can have a gun. Um, for somebody here, not a citizen, they're here legally, but they're not a citizen. I think that an interview with the sheriff might be a reasonable sort of deal, and to kind of on the flip side, or maybe to balance that out a little bit, we talk on the right all the time about how gun control does not work. The bad guy is going to get a gun because he's a bad guy, and good guys will follow the law. So if you don't let the good guys have a gun, they're not going to have a gun. They're going to become a victim, right? That's how it works. So why doesn't that same logic work when you're talking about legal non-citizens? Legal non-citizens. Um, if they're a legal non-citizen and they're a bad guy, they're going to find a gun. Uh, so why say they can't? Because the gun control isn't going to work in the first place. What we could do is we could allow the 110-pound lady from Sweden, who's here as a student, to be able to protect herself. Um, and again, take it back to class. Maybe they don't need to have semi-automatic firearms. Maybe they don't need to have uh, modern rifles. Uh, maybe just say, hey, they can have a revolver. I don't know. I think that the just knee jerk that the Second Amendment only applies to citizens, and therefore, which I think that there's a great argument for that, but by virtue of that, it doesn't follow that they cannot. You can still afford people a privilege that isn't right. It can be my right. It can be their privilege. But then, we talk about how the rights in the Constitution are God given. So here I am arguing with myself again. Is that a God given right for a person to be able to defend themselves? Uh, there's an interesting question. Uh, or is that God given right only contingent upon you being born in the great United States? And if you weren't born here, you don't have that right, because God didn't give you that right, but He gave us that right. I don't know. I think that's That's kind of an interesting question too. Anyway, uh, we do have a wide range of ideas and opinions on the right. They haven't kicked me out, so I don't know if Mr. Ferris is lying or if he's just wrong, uh, but it's absolutely not true. And we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see if my predictions come true. Now I'm going to hop off here. I'm going to get ready. We're going to record in about 2 hours, and I'm pumped. So let's go. All right, we'll see y'all next time.